The March 20th, 2023 work session meeting of the Cinnaminson Township Committee is now called to order. Everyone please rise and join me in saluting the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231. Notice of this meeting was published in the Burlington County Times and the Courier Post on January 6, 2023. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Horner.
Here.
Mrs. Crayville.
Present.
Mr. Seagrass.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Kondo.
Here.
Mayor McGill.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, committee liaison reports. First off is Committee Member Horner with Finance and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a quarterly update. The last one that I gave rather extensively was during our reorg meeting, beginning of January. So I wanted to take this opportunity tonight just to provide a little more extensive update than I have in the last couple meetings. So I am delighted to provide an update. As I stated, the three major redevelopment projects are nearing completion, and we anticipate those facilities opening in the spring and/or summer of 2023. Those projects are as follows: the C-Box expansion, which has its global headquarters here in Cinnaminson; Box Park, which is the 1.2 million square foot warehouse facility that is presently designed for one single tenant. Mr. Goins, I cannot tell you who that is quite yet, so you don't need to ask. And the third is the Westrum Senior Living Development, which, again, to remind the residents, is a 144-unit facility called the Azalea at Cinnaminson that will be opening in 2023. And the new development will offer independent living, assisted living, as well as memory care options. These three projects do represent nearly $350 million of capital investment in our township and are the result of the township's proactive redevelopment efforts. In other news, the Burlington County Department of Economic Development has chosen to showcase Cinnaminson Township's achievements during the American Planning Association's National Conference in Philadelphia next month. The planned event also includes a sold-out mobile workshop which will have an on-site visit to Cinnaminson to witness firsthand the redevelopment projects in our industrial zone. As we approach the one-year anniversary of the Lidl store opening, leaders have reported that they are very pleased with the success here in Cinnaminson. And later this week, Township Committee members will be joining representatives of the training room to celebrate their grand opening on Route 130 South near the intersection of Taylor's Lane. The training room is part of the Ivy Rehab Network and provides physical as well as occupational therapy services. In addition, this summer, early fall, we do anticipate cutting the ribbon on some projects currently under construction, including Tim Hortons Cafe and Bake Shop, formerly at the former Triborough Motors site, Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, also at the former Triborough Motors site, expansion of the Westfield Friends School at the former Bayard's Chocolate site, an ice cream parlor, which will be located between the AT&T and Starbucks store on Route 130, as well as a cosmetic medical office located at the Shops of Cinnaminson between Salad Works and Cooper Urgent Care. The township continues to support other commercial business interests along the Route 130 business corridor. We are working with the redeveloper on the final land acquisition for Chick-fil-A, as well as a to-be-determined other user on that site. We are also working on the site where the storage unit and the Children of America Daycare Center is located. We are looking for a third pad site tenant presently and are currently talking with the second pad site potential user as well. The Township Administrator and Economic Development Coordinator continue to field interest regarding cannabis opportunities in Cinnaminson. Cinnaminson was a leader in identifying a cannabis establishment zone and cannabis land use plan, which would allow limited warehousing and cultivation businesses in our community with minimal impact on residential, religious, and/or other community groups. The Planning Board has approved 5 separate parcels within the approved cannabis establishment zone for warehousing and cultivation. While we do not anticipate all 5 being developed when occupied, these buildings will meet the strongest security, public safety regulations permitted and will be a financial asset to the township. I'd like to remind the residents that the vision of this Township Committee and Administration through the recently adopted Master Plan re-examination has undertaken an approach of thoughtful planning, which has created a community with successful development mix of manufacturing, retail, technology, industrial, and medical uses, as well as a diverse housing stock. Additionally, we are certainly mindful of the current volatile economic climate and continue to work with several existing businesses on their repositioning initiatives. Mr. Mayor, this concludes my report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. Next up is Committee Member Cravel, Parks and Recreation and Veterans Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything to report this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Cravel. Next up is Committee Member Segrist, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is my monthly update from Kevin Gaunt, Superintendent of Public Works. Brush collection has resumed, and department personnel are currently working in Section 3. Residents are reminded to keep all curbside brush piles at least 10 feet away from all storm drains per New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Leaves cannot be mixed with brush and will be collected in April. Residents and organizations who are interested in volunteering for a community cleanup are encouraged to contact Public Works Superintendent Kevin Gaunt at 856-829-6000, extension 2399, to discuss potential projects funded by the Clean Communities Program. Currently, a community-wide cleanup is occurring in Cinnaminson Harbor, which is focusing on removing washed-up beach debris from the Delaware River. The township is hosting its annual Spring Cleanup Day in May. More details will be available soon via the township website, Nixle, and Facebook. Beginning in May, PSE&G will be continuing the restoration of township roads as part of their gas main replacement program. For additional information or concerns pertaining to the project, please call PSE&G at 833-661-6400. And just one more item from our engineer, Remington and Vernick. The township has requested at Remington and Vernick's assistance for the preparation of plans and specifications for lighting improvements at Wood Park. And since baseball and softball seasons are upon us, I figured I'd give a little update. Design for the proposed lighting improvements is underway. We anticipate receiving the final lighting design diagrams from Musco on or before March 21st. The project is on track for an advertisement on March 31st. Now that is just an advertisement, I believe, just for proposals. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Deputy Mayor Konda, Administration and Health and Senior Services.
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Konda. Public safety, I just have a couple things. The February activity report for the police department is as follows. Total incidents responded to, 2,158. Total arrests made was 29. Total property checks made, 766. Total motor vehicle stops, 328. Total motor vehicle summonses issued, 188. And total DWI arrests was 3. Also, at the last meeting, we had a little issue with Morgan Cemetery. Since then, Police Chief Calabrese and Lieutenant Obachowski met with Administrator Eric Schubiger met with representatives of the Harley Cemetery. They're the management company for Morgan Cemetery. The meeting was very positive, and they are very receptive and willing to work with the township and with the residents about their ongoing concerns. Some of the items that were discussed are included increased police department patrols in the area and the property, covers for the trash containers, fencing specifically along the sides of the property which abut the residences, additional lighting and additional and better positioned signage. We'll keep you up to date with them. That concludes my report for public safety. Now on to the consent agenda. Mr. Schuberger, can you give some detail, please, regarding the resolutions on tonight's consent agenda?
Sure, Mayor. There's a number of resolutions on tonight's agenda. For resolutions 47, 48, and 49, all are contracts that have been recommended by Police Chief Richard Calabrese to enhance police department operations and productivity. And our CFO, Purchasing Agent Julia Edmondson, has confirmed that sufficient funding is available in the Municipal Law Enforcement Trust account to fund those contracts. I will go through a little bit of an individual explanation of each one now as well. Resolution 47 is authorizing the award of a contract to KeyTrack, Inc. for computerized key management system for the police department. It's a computerized key management locker system to enhance the security of police department firearms, ammunition, and various other equipment and supplies. It's in the amount of $29,880.15. Resolution 48 is authorizing the award of contract to Absolute Control Dog Training for the purchase and training of a canine for the police department canine program. This contract will purchase and train our new canine, which will support the police department's canine program. As a result of the recent retirement of canine Finn, that contract is in the amount of $15,000. Resolution 49 is, again, another contract for two major police supply to outfit the police vehicle, again, for the new canine and to support the canine program. This will help accommodate the transition of a new canine into our department. That is in the amount of $10,548.35. Resolution 50 is authorizing the opt-in for the examination exemption for civil service hiring procedures. This also comes after a review by Chief Calabrese, myself, and Mr. Platt's office. Mr. Strasser was a bit involved with that through the office. This is in response to recent state legislation which modified civil service hiring procedures. The legislation permits a municipality to exempt any person for an entry-level law enforcement position from taking the civil service law enforcement exam as long as they have completed the full basic course for police officers training school at an approved school by the New Jersey Police Training Commission within 9 months from the date of the hire. Chief Calabrese has been working on this, as I said, and recommends that opting in will benefit the department in maintaining the highest level of officers for our community. Resolution 51, final resolution, Mayor, is authorizing a cancellation of taxes for a totally disabled veteran, Block 1518, Lot 3, reviewed by our tax assessor, Dennis DeClerc, who has determined that the owner meets the criteria for the eligibility of that benefit. So, Mayor, that concludes my explanation of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Schuberger. Appreciate that. That is the end of consent agenda. We now have public comment on consent agenda items only. May I have a motion to open public comment on the consent agenda items only?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. Can I have a voice vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. Public comment on the consent agenda is now open. Please state your name and address for the record. Come up to the front. Bueller? Anyone? Okay. No public comment on that, so we'll close public comment. Can I have a motion? I'll make a motion to close public comment on the consent agenda. Can I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Crable. Voice vote, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Conda. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Segrist. Roll call vote, please, Madam Secretary.
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Horner.
Aye.
Mrs. Crayville.
Aye.
Mr. Segrist.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Conda.
Aye.
Mayor Miguel.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to read the minutes for March 6th?
Yes, sir.
Any questions or anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Can I have a motion? I'll make the motion to approve the meeting minutes for March 6th, 2023. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Conda. Roll call vote, please, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Horner.
Aye.
Mrs. Craybill.
Aye.
Mr. Seagrass.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Conda.
Aye.
Mayor Miguel.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now on to approval of bills. Can I have a motion to approve the bill list?
I'll make a motion to approve the bill list.
Thank you, Mr. Conda.
There you go.
I will second that. Roll call vote, please, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Horner.
Aye.
Mrs. Craybill.
Aye.
Mr. Seagrass.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Conda.
Aye.
Mayor Miguel.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Staff and professional comments. Any comments from our staff or professionals this evening?
Mayor, I just have one.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Committee Member Horner for his extensive report tonight on economic development. I see our economic development coordinator, Mr. Minton, in the back. And I think it's important to note the activity that's ongoing throughout the town to stabilize our rateable base and to promote good business within the township. It starts here with the people who are to my right and to your left, the committee. They give me and Mr. Minton the ability to go out and work closely with developers, businesses, homeowners, everybody, to come up with a good mix, as Mr. Horner stated, of businesses within our township. And I think that's it doesn't happen without the support of the committee. So I just wanted to reference that and thank the committee for your continued support.
Thank you, Mr. Schubacher. Okay, public comment. Can I have a motion to open public comment, please?
I'll make a motion to open public comment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Seagrass. Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. Public comment is now open. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Susan Danson. I live at 707 Sweetwater Drive in the Sweetwater condominiums. I was just coming up forward this evening. We had an HOA meeting and we had discussed the Municipal Services Act and the condo credits. And it's my understanding that Sweetwater has not been given condo credits in the last several years. So I was just wondering where that stands. I know that there was some discussion, but there was also some discussion that the condo credits were not going to be awarded for 2022, which would have been last year, which would be, in this year you would be paying those out. As everybody's struggling in that development, it just so happens that it's a 55 and older. Majority of the people that live in that development are probably more so in the 70s and 80s. My husband and I are probably the anomaly there that are not. So I was just wondering where the township stands. Wanted to get some information because it seems like there's some information that's not getting completely back to our HOA and our residents. So just didn't know if anybody was aware of that or if there was anything that was brought to council about that or committee about that.
Mayor?
Okay. Yes.
So I am aware of some services that were, that there was a reach out to our zoning officer regarding some services that we're going to try to work out.
Okay.
I don't know exactly where that is, but I'll certainly check with him. And as far as the credits, that's something I have to take a look at. Is there a representative that maybe we could sit down and have a meeting just to go over everything? Because I think sometimes you get things in bits and pieces, not the full
Absolutely.
picture.
And that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and then we try to start addressing a piece of it, not knowing another piece. And I think sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, it's probably
Absolutely.
better to just,
Yeah, there
you
is
know-
a president, and I can definitely reach out to them or to at least
Yeah.
to the management company and ask someone there, because that's their responsibility. I mean, that's
Yeah,
part of what our
sure.
HOA pays for.
yeah, they can reach out to me, to Eric Schubager, the administrator, about setting either a Zoom up to get going or an in-person. Because I can speak on behalf of the committee. That's an important community to us within the township. So anything we can do to try to make that work, we're all for.
And I think that,
But it does
overall-
predate, sorry to cut you off,
That's
it
okay.
predates the entire committee and several of us up here in administration. So we'll just kind of get our heads
So-
together and work it
And
out.
full disclosure with you, I'm a municipal manager in a nearby town, so I fully get it, and that's,
Yeah.
I understand, and it's also something, again, like, as
No,
those
it's-
taxpayers there, and again, they're older, so, you know, in a small community like that, even $3,000 to come back on that bottom line for everybody is very helpful, so.
No, candidly,
again,
I
not asking to go back 15 years, I'm asking, you know, at least 22, and then moving forward to have some sort of agreement back.
we'll look at it, and they can start with me, and then we'll go from there. And we'll work with the team on coming up with
I
something.
appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jerry Hines, 808 Turner Avenue, Cinnaminson. And I would just like to address the East Riverton Park revitalization project. I haven't had an opportunity to communicate with several members of the community. Back in October of 21, I believe it was, our Civic Association had requested that we might have some input as to several things that we had hoped to get maintained or something added. One of the things that we did request is that we continue to keep the tennis court there. And I understand that there's a lot of interest around pickleball court, that there's the possibility of taking out the tennis court and replacing it with 3 pickleball courts. And we were hoping that the tennis court could remain and be converted so that it could serve both purposes, tennis court and the pickleball court. And also, I just wanted to ask about the pickleball courts in terms of 3 of them. Is the reason for that number of 3 because there's going to be tournaments there, or just wanted to get some clarity on that?
Mayor? So I'll do the second one first, which might not be the best way to approach it, but that's on. So the second one, there's no plans on tournaments of any kind at this time. There's just a real increase in interest within the community in pickleball for public play. So tournaments at this stage, they're not even there. They're not even, yeah. So no, the answer would be no. The first part of your question regarding utilizing it for both tennis and for pickleball, that has been on the table. When I last spoke to you about a week ago, what I try to do then and what I always try to do is just tell you currently where the plan is. There's still work to be done there. I know we talked and you've seen some of the progress over there. It's certainly not done. The plan as it is today was to have 3 pickleball courts, to convert it completely to pickleball. I don't think there's any movement on that, but that doesn't mean we're not listening to what you and any of the members of the community are saying. I think we've taken, depending on who you talk to, a long enough time, maybe too long, to review all the input to make those upgrades over at the park. I think that's important. There are a lot of people in the community who have either called me or approached me or called some of our committee members to say, we got to do something about pickleball in this town. So it just so happens that that's a park that we're in the middle of upgrading the last couple of years. But I think in general, and Mayor, if I'm misspeaking, I know you'll correct me, we look at park amenities in the township as part of a community park system. So all of the parks that we have and all the amenities and all the interests of the town, and then based upon what needs some TLC and available funding, how can we best, in general, react to what the public's looking for within the system that we have? I think that's pretty accurate. That's kind of how we look at it. It just so happens, Ms. Hines, that the park that we're working on now is East Riverton Park, near where I know, or because you're part of the Civic Association, that's your current interest. But we look at the interest of everyone in all the parks that we have. So I hope that answers your question. It's the best I could do at this point.
Understood. And, you know, we don't object to pickleball. I just had an opportunity this past week to watch a couple of tournaments on a cruise ship. So, I know that it's happening. And, I have interest in it. It seems like something that would be more suited for me than tennis, but there are young people who are, going to be interested in tennis. And we would like to maintain and give them that opportunity to have the tennis court and a pickleball court. And it would seem that with this great interest in pickleball, that it might be better suited to one of the larger parks where there's restroom facilities that are stationary as opposed to, you know, the smaller ones that are in some of the smaller parks. So, you know, I just thought that might be taken into consideration, that it might be with all the interest as opposed to it just being at a park in East Riverton, that it would be open to, you know, the larger parks, Wood Park, Memorial Park, you know. So, you know, we would like to know, when will there be a decision made on that? Because we are actively, you know, speaking to parents, trying to find out, you know, what the interest is, you know, so that, you know, the park, because the fact of the matter is, people who are closest in proximity to the parks are the ones who use the parks the most, that particular park. I know it's open to everybody, and that one park doesn't get to say, you know, we get this, we get that. But, you know, that's reality, that, you know, some people don't have transportation to go out to a larger park to do something, so the children tend to go to a park that they can walk to. So we just wanted to have some input into that, you know, into, you know, some understanding as to the reasons for, you know, the numbers, like why 3 pickleball courts as opposed to 2 pickleball courts? I mean.
Can I answer that one too, Mayor?
So, if the township was to go the route of utilizing the tennis court for both tennis and pickleball, because of the need to have the certain height of the net and the length, the span of the court in order to play tennis, you would only be able to get 1 pickleball court with certain lines, so it would be 1 and 1.
Yes.
To get the most, I was going to say bang for the buck, but that's not a real good professional term. To get the best benefit for the residents, for the money out of that footprint that's currently there, 3 pickleball courts fit across the span of that current footprint with room enough for safety and for, for safety. So that's where we came up with 3. If we're going to do it that way, it would be 3. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. Mr. Gaunt's in the audience. That's what we discussed. I think that was the best, right? Okay. So that's why it's 3 and not 2 and not 4. So that's what the township committee is left with. Either 3 pickleball courts without changing the footprint there, or 1 tennis court and 1 pickleball court is essentially what we're talking about now. Yes,
If I
sorry.
could ask,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, one other thing. Ms. Hines, you mentioned potentially looking at pickleball in some other parks, namely the 2 larger parks in the town, which would be Wood Park and Memorial. Wood Park, where we have the 5 courts, I believe it's 5 or 6. The township actually doesn't have the option to convert any of those because the school district actually contributed to the cost of those courts because they don't have any currently at the high school. So they use those courts for the organizations that play tennis, whether it's the camps or it's actually the high school sports themselves. So the township did consider that, of course, but unfortunately we don't have just the sole discretionary ability to just say we're going to take 2 or 3 of those courts because we didn't pay for those. The township did not, when I say that. And then at Memorial, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, your husband was the president of baseball for quite some time. Currently, there's over 400 kids that play baseball that use Memorial Park, and there really isn't space there either to either take a baseball field or take a soccer field or take some of the other amenities that are there and convert those to pickleball courts. We've also tried to utilize Ravenswood. I wasn't sure if it was you or if it was someone else that had recommended possibly striping a court for multi-use, being tennis or pickleball, where you could just raise and lower the nets. We tried to do something like that over at Ravenswood, and it didn't accommodate tennis very well, and it didn't accommodate pickleball very well. So what we found was that pickleball actually just stopped using those courts altogether, and they just reverted back to underused tennis, quite frankly. So we have looked at those things that you've brought up, we've certainly had those conversations as a committee. We just haven't really found any other viable option. And as Mr. Schubiger alluded to, we're currently, transforming East Riverton Park. And when we look at the park system as a whole, this seemed like a really good fit, at least initially. Clearly, we're taking the input of yourself and any other residents that care to say otherwise or give some suggestions, but we look at the park upgrades in phases, and it just so happens that pickleball demand is through the roof, and we're actually looking at doing a lot of great things in East Riverton Park, so.
I appreciate that
Yes, yes, ma'am.
explanation, Mr. Horner.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other pickleball courts in any of the other parks?
Currently, there are not.
There are none.
Yeah, there are not. As I mentioned, a few years ago, I don't even know how long
Honestly,
it was.
we double striped Ravenswood.
Yeah.
And like you said, it was not good for either
It
sport,
just doesn't.
and it stopped getting used altogether because it was a multi-sport court that didn't properly accommodate either pickleball or tennis.
But we are excited about the revitalization and some things that we're going to see, the pavilion and so forth.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
So we'll see how it all shakes out, but we just wanted to be heard on that issue that, as to what the community is feeling. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for your.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming up.
Good evening, everyone. I would just like to add something to what Ms. Hines.
Ma'am, name and
Oh, I'm
address for the
sorry.
record, please. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I thought you would know me, madam.
We do, but we still have to
Anyway.
get it on the
We have to
record.
say it.
Okay, good evening. I'm Jamala Shepherd. I live in Palmar, New Jersey at 215 Front Street in Palmar. And I'm here speaking on behalf of the Civic Club. I want to add just a few things to what Ms. Hines says. Number one, I noticed that in 2020, the Extension Park was, I guess, revitalized or had an opening. As of today, the Extension Park only has the playground area, which was updated, and I think that they have a tennis court there, but
Basketball, I believe.
basketball
Yeah, it's
basketball court. Now, they don't have a tennis court, and there's plenty of room there. I mean, I rode around their whole park, and I would like to know why the Extension Park was not considered for pickleball, because it is a nice park. In fact, when we went in 2020, a group of us went to every park in Cinnaminson. We went to the 2 major parks, and we went to the 5 minor parks. All the parks were basically the same. All the children's equipment seemed about the same, the tennis courts. Most of them needed a little bit of repair, but the repair was like all the courts. And everything was basically the same. Some parks might have had a few more benches or something like that, another park, but everybody basically had everything. And at that time, we were just looking for repairs, and we heard that pretty soon our town, East Riverton Park, would soon be getting revitalized. And at that time, there was a discussion about the tennis court being removed. And at that time, everybody, well, I'm not gonna say everybody, a lot of the members, when we were talking to them, just walking around town saying, who's playing, who's not playing, we heard we weren't using it. And a lot of people says, well, sometimes we play, sometimes we don't, and sometimes we take our kids over there. Now, the younger kids that are coming up now, seems though some of their parents maybe have a little bit more, are in better financial shape. They can now buy tennis rackets if they choose to go to the tennis courts, where maybe 15 years ago, they weren't able to. So I just want to bring that to your attention that things are changing in this routine. And I did go over to the park. Looks great. I was a little bit upset when they took down the trees and we weren't notified. But then we came to the township meeting. They said the trees would be replaced, and the trees are replaced. But my concern is, as a concern of others, and strongly felt that the tennis court should stay and the pickleball could also come. You were talking previously about the number of people playing baseball, and you weren't not enough of baseball diamonds. Well, the one from East Riverton was removed. Why wasn't that one utilized when there were overabundance of people playing baseball? Why wasn't the East Riverton utilized? The only children over there playing were just like little kids. It wasn't organized. It's just little kids playing, you know. But why wasn't that utilized? That would have been something to bring to East Riverton Park as opposed to get rid of it. But now I understand that it's going to be multi-purpose, and they're going to be able to play soccer maybe, and maybe flag football, which is good because a lot of the children, they're playing that now without the markers. So that's my concern. But I feel strongly, and the members have asked me to come out here and say this again in front of you, that they feel strongly about keeping the tennis court. And if there's any way we could have a tennis court and pickleball, that would be great. That's my comment for this evening, and now the reason why I'm here. Okay, number 2. Any comments from?
I mean, Ms. Shepherd, I can talk to you about why baseball did not use the baseball field.
Okay,
I was on the baseball board for quite some time, and the field was not large enough to have larger kids play there because it wasn't a big enough field, and you would run the risk of hitting baseballs out past what would be a safe distance and potentially hit other children who potentially were playing on the park. And then from a smaller child standpoint, whether it be t-ball, there's enough space and there is a field at Memorial Park to accommodate that, as well as restrooms there for the younger kids who may have to use the restroom. So from an organization standpoint, we could not find a good use for that field because, as I stated, from a safety standpoint, we couldn't have the larger kids use it. And the younger kids, because there were no bathroom facilities there, could not use it in case they needed to use the restroom.
and I'd like to mention, prior to you being on the board, in East Riverton, there was organized baseball there. And the teams were a group of men from different sections, and they did play there, and the field was kept up. So there was playing there, and the
Sure.
field was lined, and there was use there.
That doesn't mean it was right or that it was safe, it just means they did it.
Yes.
Right.
I understand that part too.
Gotcha.
Okay. Anything else you would like to share with me?
No.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go on to Monday, December 5th. On Monday, December 5th, Resolution 2022-146 reads as follows. Authorize submission of grant application for execute grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for fiscal year 2023. Local Freight Impact Fund pedestrian safety improvements for Union Landing Road. I would like to know if the grant came through, and if working on Union Landing Road includes the sidewalks and better lighting that was asked for.
Mayor, thanks. So the grant does include the specifications that you just outlined, but we did not receive any response yet from the funder. Lisa, is that correct? Because I haven't
That's
seen
right.
any.
No, we
So
haven't.
not yet. As
So
soon
it's
as we
still
do.
pending?
I'm sorry?
Pending?
It's pending. As soon as we hear from the state, we'll be happy to report that. Well, hopefully we'll be happy to report that.
And that was for, just let me make it clear, sidewalks and lighting.
It was for sidewalks.
Because we asked
And
for
I think there-
sidewalks and lighting.
I think there was some lighting, and I'll check on that part, but it was definitely for sidewalks, because that was, I know, a big part of our conversations prior to that.
Okay?
Yeah.
And my third thing was, I believe Kevin, Public Works, had addressed this to me, and we're still, and it was explained, Kevin, let me know if I'm misquoting you, that the crosswalks were not painted because at first we didn't have the paint. Now, I believe they're going to paint them in conjunction with other parts of Cinnaminson that need crosswalks to be painted. I'd just like to mention that the year is half over, and it's still not done. And this has been asked for twice, and it's not for me, it's for the safety of the children. Now, right now it's March, and we've been asking for it for a while. even if they could only do a few, it would have been helpful, especially for the ones on Union Landing, because there's a lot of traffic down Union Landing, and at Roland and Union Landing and Hunter and Union Landing. You still have the big trucks coming down there going into C-Box. You got other trucks coming, and the crosswalks need to be painted, if possible, soon. And I do understand, Kevin, that you're trying to bunch it all together with the township because a lot of places need it. But if you keep an eye on those two locations, because there's a lot of tractors and trailers up and down there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Bob Sinatra, 1205 Perry Ave. Hoping to just reopen the Morgan Cemetery conversation real quick. Just a couple questions. First of all, thank you for organizing the meeting, and Chief and Lieutenant, we appreciate it very much. The gate situation, was the topic ever broached? I think I know the answer, but I figured I'd ask it out loud. And do they have any feelings about potentially putting gates up at the two entrances to the cemetery?
Mayor? So gates were brought up, and as I think I sent you in the email today, it was sort of an introductory meeting. We wanted to get things moving. That was not something that they were looking to do immediately. That is the answer. And both Chief Calabrese and Lieutenant Obachowski were there. I'm sure they'll correct me if and when I'm wrong. I thought the meeting went really well, and I think we have a partner now with the cemetery and the township that, candidly, we should have had before. I'm glad we've established that. They were also open to the fact that it's directly impacting local residents in the area, and to have a second meeting where maybe some members of the community were there as well. I know you'd probably be right there if we can coordinate it.
If I might.
Yeah. So we did say that to them. I thought it was important for the township to meet with them first to establish that relationship. So no, the gates, I think the answer was it was not positively responded to at the time. We're trying to make progress little by little. It's something that if it's, and this is important, and I know Mr. Platt was at the last meeting when this came up, and Justin's here picking up on where we left off. If it's something that's legal that we could pursue on behalf of residents in the township, we're going to do it. But that's an important part of this. I'm sure you understand that.
Yes, I do.
And I know I talked to the mayor extensively about this the past few days. Whatever the township can do to support making that area cleaner, more safe, and reducing noise and making quality of life for you and your neighbors better, they're going to support it. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And I think by us going out there and spending some time with them, it was a start. But we know we're not at the finish line, and it's going to be ongoing.
Good. Comment about them or the potential to add lighting. Personally, I see the addition of lighting in the cemetery as an invitation to have after-hours visitors. So I would be concerned or cautious about how much lighting and where it's going to be. I can appreciate that our officers coming in and patrolling regularly and such, but we know what happens when they see our guys coming. That's when things get quiet or people disappear. So the fact that they respond when we have major issues is something. Personally, I don't know about lighting. I don't know if it's going to do anything to improve the situation. And if we put lights out there, out in the fields and whatever, I personally just see more people coming in after hours when they're not supposed to be there, versus imposing the dusk to dawn type situation.
Understood.
Yeah.
And I put lighting when I sent you that message today, just so you knew all the topics that were discussed.
I appreciate it.
I know, I was going to say I know my limits, but that would be too easy for you guys. I defer to the professionals, right? And I know Chief Calabrese and his staff will work closely with the cemetery on the strategic location of any lighting. And I'm sure they agree, it is important where and what and how. So we're sensitive to that.
My last comment is on the fences. We all put them up ourselves, and the people that didn't, they're on the corners or they're on the side where the creek runs through down to the river. Just so you know, I don't know.
No,
that
understood.
It's just trying to make a point that I don't know that the things they're bringing up as being positive enhancements to the conversation might not really do a whole lot, but appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Grice, 100 Purnell, also in the cemetery. Did they make a commitment to pick up all the litter in the ditch in the MS4?
So, Mr. Goins, we didn't get to the MS4 part, well, not at this meeting. But what we're hoping is with progress that we make with our meetings and their commitment to the township is that it doesn't get that far. But right now, I know it is. I know you've made that clear. But it's worth bringing it to their attention. We tried to cover as much as we could.
Right.
I didn't cover that.
And how did they say the trespassing would be handled by the police?
Listen, I think that's something that Chief Calabrese might want to comment on.
Oh, that's why I'm asking,
Yeah.
because I figured he might want to.
Yeah, he looks like he wants to, I think.
So I requested, there's 2 points of entry and 2 points of egress. And I requested the sign that's halfway down the path to be moved to both entrances with lighting that anybody coming or going can see it visible so that we can enforce the trespassing rules. Because having it halfway down the path does no good because they're already in. The lighting we were talking about was more like solar panel based of a low light, just a hue so you can see what's going on. And lighting does stop people from coming. So if we have the entrances both marked properly, that you can't be there, and the lighting's out there, just enough so you can see people out there. We're not talking lights like this. We believe it's gonna help. And they've given us a letter stating that they fully give the police permission to go on their property to enforce the trespassing.
That was my next question.
And what we normally do for that is, like we would do for anybody, we give a warning. We write your name down, we document it in the CAD system. Second time, you get invited back to the police station. And that's how we're gonna handle it.
Invitation, by invitation only.
Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, have a motion to close public comment, please.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. I'll second that. Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, the ayes have it. On to committee comment. Any comments from committee tonight? Members, anybody?
No, sir.
And believe it or not, I have nothing to say either tonight, so we'll get on to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Conda. I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Next meeting is Monday, April 3rd.